The State Department revoking the visas and denying the travel of foreign nationals who are arrested for impaired or reckless driving. This new policy is aimed at keeping the streets safe from foreigners who disregard American law or put Americans in larger jeopardy. Now, as you mentioned, the department uses the example of 5 individuals who are arrested for drunk driving and other crimes that put U.S. citizens in harm's way. One individual was arrested for a DUI with a blood alcohol level nearly double that of the legal limit and was driving with a minor in the vehicle. Another arrested for a DUI with a blood alcohol level more than 3 times the legal limit and then showed up to a court-mandated DUI program intoxicated, both of those individuals ultimately having their visas revoked. Now, this whole issue really came to a head last year when a 21-year-old illegal immigrant from India who crossed the southern border in 2022 and was then released by the Biden administration caused a deadly crash in Southern California. Jashanpreet Singh now serving 4 years in prison for manslaughter after killing 3 people after failing to hit the brakes of his big rig truck. That incident kicking off a firestorm among critics and a review of how foreign nationals can obtain licenses, as well as broader safety measures concerning immigrants. And now the State Department says that under President Trump, it will continue to revoke the visas of foreigners who endanger U.S. citizens and will continue to put the safety of Americans as a top priority moving forward. Right, Krisha?
Thank you, Alex Salvi. We are pleased to be joined now by State Department spokesperson Tommy Pigott. Tommy, great to have you this morning. As always, welcome back to the program. So it is pretty shocking that this policy was not already in place by previous administrations, but it's clear that the Trump administration is pushing this forward. So explain a little bit more about this policy as to revoking some of the visas of individuals who commit crimes, specifically driving under the influence.
Well, it's common sense. And what this is stemming from is our ability to continuously vet those that are here on visas. Of course, there is that robust vetting program that we are continually examining before someone receives a visa. But once they are here in the United States, if they break our laws, if they break the terms of their visas, if they are a threat to our national security, that is grounds for visa revocation. What we've seen from a broader standpoint is over 100,000 visas have been revoked, with the primary causes being criminal activity, including DUIs, including assault, including theft. And the bottom line is this: we are not going to allow foreigners here on visas to drive drunk on our streets, to assault our people, to steal from our stores. We are not going to do it. We are going to protect the American people.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, we're talking about people being law-abiding citizens allowed to stay, but if you're here illegally and you're breaking the law, what about those states, though? And I know you were talking specifically about DUIs and traffic violations, but those states that have issued these CDLs to a lot of these illegal immigrants that have resulted in the deaths of innocent Americans, what kind of repercussions could there be for states that engage in that type of CDL allowance for illegal immigrants?
Well, look, what I can say from the State Department is that we're going to take the action that we deem necessary to protect the American people. And if there is action, so for example, the recent revocation of a Laotian national that received a pardon from Governor Tim Walz, the Secretary of State revoking the legal status, and our colleagues at ICE and DHS removing that individual from the country. We're going to take the actions that we view necessary to defend the American people. When we think of border security, we so often think of the southwest border, President Trump securing that border. But visa security is also border security. It is who we are letting into this country legally. So we have that robust vetting program. We have that continuous vetting program. And we are going to continue to look at cases where we see foreigners breaking our laws, breaking the terms of their visas, threatening our national security. And we've made it clear we're going to take the actions necessary to protect our national security.
Switching gears here a bit, U.S. forces overnight launching a massive attack on Iran in response to their unsuccessful surprise attack on our base in Jordan. Now, in response to Iran's failed attack on U.S. troops stationed in Jordan, CENTCOM launched a major offensive last night, and this after the U.S. teamed up with the Saudis to strike Iran terror proxies in Iraq. Tommy, how far will this escalation go, do you think?
Well, look, President Trump has made clear, as has the Secretary of State, that our policy here when it comes to the Iranian regime targeting American forces, targeting U.S. interests, is going to be a head for an eye. If we see the Iranian regime doing that, there will be consequences. There was an agreement, the Iranian regime broke the agreement, and President Trump is acting accordingly.
All right, Tommy, the renewed attacks come as the Associated Press has released this new poll this morning showing American support for the war is falling, with 2/3 of Democrats and independents saying that the war isn't worth fighting. Only a third of Republicans think that, though. Do you think this is a problem for the president, as this is sort of going on and on a bit in some people's minds? Obviously, we know the Iranian regime has been terrorizing the world for 40-plus years. But how will the president deal with some of this support potentially waning as this drags on a bit?
Well, look, President Trump has been clear that the Iranian regime cannot be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. And the actions that President Trump has taken have already made the United States and the entire world safer, including Operation Midnight Hammer, which saw the obliteration of those nuclear sites, including Operation Epic Fury, which saw the decimation of Iran's conventional military capability. The president has been clear from the beginning that it is an untenable threat to the American people to allow the Iranian regime to have a nuclear weapon. That's something that many presidents have agreed upon for decades. But President Trump is taking action to make sure that the Iranian regime never acquires a nuclear weapon.
You know, Tommy, President Trump, he met with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu earlier in the week. Netanyahu characterized the meeting as excellent. Similarly, Caroline Leavitt said it was a great meeting. What more can you tell us about this meeting?
Well, look, the president truthing about this meeting as well, talking at a productive meeting. One of the great things about President Trump is his transparency, the fact that you see his readouts of these meetings. So I have nothing to add to what Caroline Leavitt and to what the president have said here. But what is clear, again, is the president's objectives are very clear when it comes to Iran and the Iranian regime. He has said it again and again and again.
All right. Tommy Pigott, as always, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me on.